everyone, and welcome to Awkward Audrey's Art Hour. Thank you for being patient with me. I got a little bit of a late start this time around. My setup, I ended up not having everything I usually have for my setup, so I had to kind of makeshift what I got. But hey, what we have will work today. I have the video and I have my supplies, and I'm excited to get this all going. What we'll be doing today is we will be watercoloring a scene. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Mom. We'll be watercoloring this scene here, and first I'm gonna go over all the design elements. Hi, Liz. Of this of what I have sketched out and why I made the decisions I made, and then we're going to get to I decided that this is a little bit more of a complex piece and I want to be able to finish it as much as possible within this art hour. So I decided that I will first go over it with some lines using my bullet journal pens, and then I will watercolor the rest of it to give it that feeling of life and set the mood, as it were, with the watercolor. Yeah, so that is where we will be. Where we will be. I can speak English. Let's see. There we go. So there are several elements here, and you'll have to forgive me that the camera is a little bit farther up than I am used to, so that we can see all of this. So I will be periodically checking my screen to see if there are comments, but I will not immediately be able to respond as quickly as I normally do. So please have patience with me. If you do ask a question or have a comment, I will get to you. It will just might not be as quick as normal. All right. Hi, Kathy. Thanks for joining. Okay, so what we have sketched out here is a scene with several different elements. I would say about four different elements that we're going to go through, and I'm going to kind of walk you through how I went about deciding how to draw each element, and then what my intentions are for when I go to ink and color the rest of the piece. So obviously the first point here is going to be the focal point, the crown. This is our Candlelit crown, and I decided that we were going to put this on a cushion and have it be its own kind of character in this narrative. Also because I really just wanted to put as much detail as I could in designing a crown. I don't know if any of you have ever wanted to have your own crown, but I decided it'd be really fun to design my own crown and kind of make a story in and of itself using the crown and like its history. So what we're going to be doing today is getting some precise lines using pens and outlining the crown itself, and then I'm going to be going in with watercolor to give it its color. I decided that these are that I wanted a kind of cedar forest. Cedar trees generally historically have represented strength and endurance and wisdom. So I decided that for a royal crown, that is what I wanted to go with. And also it's pointy, and you could put a lot of pointy bits on it and it looks like a forest. And I thought that's a really easy way to get a theme going. If you make those pointy bits really mean something. So I decided that this is going to be a gold crown, and each of these spires or trees, as you will have emeralds in them. This will be a sapphire, a brilliant blue sapphire to represent like a lake. And then these here will be onyx black to represent the earth that these trees are born from. When I went to go design this element, it was generally a rough go. I highly recommend you don't do my method. My method takes a long time. I should have just gotten out a sketch pad and just doodled like really quick sketches as much as I wanted to see what kind of crown I wanted. But because I was like, oh, I want to actually put what I draw onto my final piece, this took some time to decide what angle I wanted to shoot this part from. I wanted to, what perspective, are we going to be looking directly straight at it, or are we going to be looking down into it? I decided to kind of, let's look down into it and give it a little bit of an extra dimension there to make it more interesting to look at. And ultimately, how did I want to decorate this piece? Usually, I would suspect that most crowns and most jewelry pieces in general would have significance with like how many prongs there were and everything. I really don't know how many there are around here. I just kind of decided what I wanted the spacing to be for these front ones, and then I just tried to be as consistent as I could with the back ones, so it didn't look like there was one that was too skinny or too fat compared to the ones in front. That's really it. And ultimately, I wanted to know, because it's a crown, I wanted a big jewel up front, and I wanted it to be a brilliant blue color. Let's see. Hi, Terry. Thanks for joining. And since I didn't want it to be, I wanted the crown to be ultimately the subject of this piece, I decided not to put it on the head of the king. I wanted the king to be its own character. And so I decided, well, what do you normally put a crown on? And I decided to make this really cushy pillow to put it on. And hopefully when I go to paint it, I'll be able to show it as a soft, ploofy piece of pillow that is for this royal crown. Okay, on to the next element. We are going to go to our lovely king here, sitting in his chair here. This is not his throne. This is in his chambers, with his cape draped off of the side. And I decided that on my last piece with the woman saying "what the heck and heck," that I really enjoyed drawing her, but overall her posture was not dynamic. It didn't really tell a story. It was very relaxed, very neutral for the most part, except for her face, where her face was had held most of the expression and told most of the story of the piece. So I decided with this one that I wanted to go about doing that differently, and I wanted to show he's in a relaxed, in a like tired position, and his feet aren't proper. They're not like straight on and together or anything. They're kind of lackadaisical and kind of sitting at the edge of his chair here, leaning off to the far side, with his hands above his head, like holding onto his head, as if the crown was a weight to hold, and his head feels very heavy and tired. And I had a lot of fun sketching this. It took a little while to quite get the posture down, but I really enjoyed drawing and adding little details to it to give it an interesting perspective and just an interesting overall posture. Even though he is relaxed and sitting, it's not an action pose like he's fighting somebody with a sword or anything. He's just here in this moment, feeling the weight of being a leader of a kingdom, and I wanted to portray that. A cushy pillow is what I usually put my crown on. I agree, Mom. I agree. It's what you should always do. Hi, John. Hi, Jason. Thank you for joining us as I watercolor here today. All right, so the next point here is the next element. The third element here is the candle piece. I had a little bit of a hard time deciding where I wanted to put this piece, because it's a candlelit crown, right? I already decided that was my theme, candlelit crown. So there's got to be two things in this theme. There's got to be candles and there's got to be a crown. Crown, boom, taken care of. But I want to decide like how am I going to introduce the candles. I don't want to put too many candles, though I could, I suppose. But ultimately, I wanted it to kind of have this slightly oppressive feeling, like he's working late at night trying to make these weighty decisions on how to run his kingdom. So I decided that we're going to just keep this just a single bit of candles, and maybe in order to highlight the crown, we'll have some candles that are off screen, or off the page, you don't see them, like they are over, like say my right shoulder shining onto the crown, so that we can get some of that light onto the crown. But for this background here, we will have these candles standing here above our forlorn king, our tired king. And also I decided I wasn't sure again where to put it on this page, and so I decided, you know what? Let's put it where the perspective is coming from. So you will notice that for the rest, ignoring the chair is not supposed to line up with the perspective because he's sitting askew, right? So the chair has its own vanishing point. But for the rest of the scene, the vanishing point, for the rest of this background, the vanishing point is actually at this middle candle here. I thought that would just kind of pull the rest of this piece together, right? So when you look off into the distance, like this table here, it's going to disappear into the candle. These scrolls disappear into the candle. The edge of the table disappears into the candle. And I thought that would kind of bring it together where the crown is what is the focal point, but for the background, it's just going to be pulled into the candelabra. And then the final piece, the final element of this piece, I decided I had a little bit difficulty with how does one show that he has a lot of decisions to make. I'm like, let's just load him up on all these scrolls, and the crown could be a candle stand. Yes, the king looks like he's buckling under tension. Maybe I'm projecting. No, yeah, he's definitely feeling the weight of something, and I'm hoping decisions. Maybe, who knows? It could be that the castle is falling down on him, Game of Thrones style. But right now I want it to be decisions, and so I'm thinking that we're going to have these be the decisions. But I also wanted to kind of keep it simple, right? I want the crown to be the focus, and while there's details back here, they're not going to be the main focus of this piece. So I decided to keep these scrolls really simple. And ultimately, how I went about doing that is I just drew a whole bunch of circles where the circles were touching each other, right? So like the circles were not just like dots that were kind of close to each other, they were circles touching each other of various but fairly uniform sizes. And then I was like, okay, what can you see from this vanishing point? And decided that this side here would show that these were in fact scrolls. Ta-da! And so there you go. And it was mostly just draw them all about the same size and then round off the top. So drawing these scrolls was actually fairly simple. Now, one element that I am missing from this background, because you know what, I'm lazy, and ultimately there's just not enough time or patience to figure out how I wanted to do this, was how to draw like the stand or the feet of the table. There's a lot of different ways to draw feet of a table, and I know that sounds boring and silly, but it does affect how this piece looks. Like if I wanted to draw feet coming right out from the corners, it kind of gives it more of a card table feel, and I didn't really want that, right? If I was going to do that, it'd have to be hefty, it would have to be a little bit more ornate. It would cover up his legs, and I decided I ultimately am not going to define those. When I go in with watercolor, I am going to just kind of shadow it a little bit, make this area dark as if it is supporting the rest, and have some feet kind of indicated, but softly. Nothing defined, nothing, so you don't really notice it. You just know it's supported, you know it's there, but it's not something of interest, and you will just hopefully glaze over it and look at all the other interesting pieces that I have already laid out for this particular piece of artwork. Like, I do like the location of the candles. They become the crown. Oh, I see what you mean. That is kind of cool. I know what, I never actually noticed that, Jason. That's really cool. Hi, Shannon. Stopping by to say hi. What's up today? Can't be long. Oh, but thank you so much. I appreciate your support. It means a lot that you have come and say hello. I hope that you can stay as long as you can and that you have a great Sunday. All right. I think you convey the idea of a table without legs. That's good. Thank you. I really hope that I'm able to execute that as well as I'm imagining, right? Because there's one thing to it's one thing to like say, oh, I think this is going to work. It's another thing to actually make it work. So we'll see what happens. So normally what I have done in the past is I've used a smaller bowl. I decided to go with a larger plate for my watercolor today so that I can have more options to decide what colors I want to use. As you have seen before, I kind of just put like a whole bunch onto my palette, and then if it gets, it usually means I have to use that before I really go on to the next element of my painting that might require different colors. And if I do that wrong, they all start to blend together like red. I want vivid red and vivid blue. Might accidentally get vivid purple instead. So I decided to go with a slightly bigger plate, and I may have to go in and rinse this plate at some point, but that is my general thinking. At some point here, I'm hoping to actually get like a real palette going on. Hi, Daniele. Thank you for joining. We're just about to get started here on actually adding color to this piece. Yeah, so in the future, I hopefully will actually be using a real palette and not just, whatever dinner plates I have. But hey, these are things that I got rid of when I was moving, and now I need to purchase all these things again. Okay, so what do I want to start with when it comes to inking? So generally speaking, you should just go with what makes you excited the most, right? Because that's going to get you inspired, it's going to get you going, and that kind of inspiration and motivation will carry you through the rest of the piece. However, I am very nervous. Watercolor makes me very nervous because it is a very finicky medium, and it's very time sensitive, very delicate work. And so I'm going to outline some of this already preemptively with some of my bullet journal pens, and then I will go in and erase with my kneaded eraser some of the video keeps hanging up. That's not good. Let's see. Sorry about that. The internet connection might not be so great. I'm sorry about that. Hopefully it will hopefully it'll work long enough to get through this video. If I do keep fading in and out, then maybe I might have to restart another video, but hopefully we won't have to do that, and it's just a temporary fix or a temporary problem. Actually, hey Mom, if we're on the same Wi-Fi connection, it might help my upload speed if you come up here and watch from up here, and put the phone away and put your laptop away. Hi Lauren, thanks for joining. So sorry if I do cut out. I will try to keep an eye on that. If I do cut out, I will just restart again and pick up where I left off, and hopefully we can get through this as quickly and painlessly as possible. Yeah. So anyway, so I'm going to go through and ink some of this, and then I'm going to use my kneaded eraser, and pick up as much of the graphite as possible, because I don't want the graphite to be underneath my watercolor if I can help it. And then we'll get down to the watercoloring. Okay. So what I'm thinking, because I ultimately want this part to look good. I want this part to look pristine and amazing. But I don't quite have the confidence yet to make sure that this does look right. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to work on a background element to kind of get a feel for how these work and how the watercolor is going to work instead. So I'm going to choose a fairly neutral color to outline the scrolls, and then see how I feel about it, and go from there. And hopefully I'll learn some things and gain some confidence while working on this less important element in order for me to gain the confidence and mindset I'll need to tackle the crown, because the crown is ultimately what I want to look the best. Okay, let's see. So in order for, for these scrolls to look good, in order to, one, make sure they look like scrolls and not like little logs that he just for some reason has on his table, like he's inspecting all these logs and he has to his kingdom depends on the quality of these logs on his table. What I'm going to do is in order to portray that these are scrolls, I'm going to do a spiral in the center, and then later I'll go in and shade it with watercoloring. Okay.
The video is going in and out.
Yeah. I guess there's not much we can do right now, but thank you for letting me know. It's probably a temporary thing. Like, Comcast is ridiculous. Okay, so we're going to start, since I am right-handed, I will start from the left and I'll work my way to the right so I don't accidentally smudge it with my, with the outer palm of my hand. Oop, oop. Is Samuel also running a Twitch stream right now? Oh my god. Yeah, I would be so mad if he did that. Don't ruin my upload speed. Okay, so we're gonna start here and kind of do a spiral. Not too tight, but also not too loose. We still want it to look like a scroll, but not. If you look at, let's see, if it's too tight, it will look like a log. If it's too loose, it will just look like this weird spiral, like hypnotizing sort of circle. I don't really want that. There you go. Dun, 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 dun. I decided that for this piece that I kind of wanted the neutral color to be a brownish color. Sometimes, like, choosing what the kind of base color is going to be helps you decide what color scheme you want for the rest of the piece. Like if you were going to have like a, I don't know, like a night scene, having a dark blue would tell a different story than if you chose like a dark green or a dark red. Oh, this is kind of therapeutic. Maybe this kind of brings me back to like elementary school when I'm just doodling on my notes. And the teacher would be like, Audrey, you need to not doodle on your notes. This is not our class. Okay, fine. Fine. Okay. I did have one teacher decide, he did show us his college notes, and I thought that was pretty clever, like to show us like there is a way to doodle and not ruin your work. And he had doodle pages on the front and back of his binder and his folder. And so like, you can see I actually did doodle, like doodling is perfectly fine, just don't do it on your homework. Oh, okay, All right, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Okay. These are kind of looking like logs. Hi, Sam. Thanks for joining. So maybe I just need to make that middle spiral look extra prominent. It's one of those things where I haven't really ever done a piece like this before. I am used to working with acrylic and I am used to working more abstract pieces. Or I'm used to drawing realistic pieces. And I found that drawing and painting really do require two different types of thinking. And so it's very difficult sometimes for me to reconcile that this is how I'm going to draw and then this is how I'm actually going to paint. How is the video coming in? Also, make sure your phone is on Wi-Fi. My phone is on Wi-Fi, unfortunately. Oh, good, I'm back. Okay, so those details look fairly good, I think. I think we'll accept that is acceptable. Let's take a look at, okay. So now we're going to, let's see. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this much, much lighter color and I'm going to outline the rest of the scrolls. And so when I go to erase these scrolls, there will still be a faint outline that I can use for watercoloring that will not affect the watercolor part. Hopefully. Now I'm thinking about now is I'm ultimately just drawing a whole bunch of sideways J's in order to draw these scrolls, you know? Okay, don't forget these guys over here. There's only a few, but I put them in there to make sure that they got the attention they deserve to really give that look. Okay, so I've inked this. Let's see how it looks when I go to erase. And pick up all that graphite. And if that is something I can use, if that's usable for when I go to watercolor. And if it works, then I will use this technique on the rest of the paint, or the rest of the piece here. Okay. Okay, there we go. I think that looks good. I think that's pretty reasonable. Okay. So let's go through and decide what elements do I want to pen in, and then what elements do I want to watercolor. These big open spaces, I'm definitely going to watercolor. That's definitely what's going to happen. And I think for the crown, especially when it comes to the jewels and the metallic part, I will definitely be watercoloring. For this figure though, in order to capture it, this is a lot of detail for a watercolor piece that could take hours to get done properly. So I think I'm going to outline some of the elements with pen instead. So on that note, let's decide what he's going to wear. What color is his hair? What color is his vest? What color are his boots? Let's take a look. I think, let's see. Let's do a, no, that's a little too dark. Let's do a kind of light blue for the vest. And then later on, I can put in some darker watercolor blue in its place. So ultimately what I'm doing here is I'm kind of drawing out the spaces that are going to have watercolor and outlining them so that when I put water on it, I can see where the water should stop. And here's kind of where his shoulder blade would go. His back kind of hunched over ever so slightly. He's a very prim and proper person. This would have a bunch up there because his arms are lifted up. Go. Chairs going up against the vest is drawn up against the chair, his pants, and then finally the seam. And so we're going to kind of lightly do a seam and then show some lines here to show that the material is bending there. There we go. Hey Alex, thanks for joining. Okay, so we have that outlined. Let's go for his, let's go for his boots. And we will have them be, oh my goodness, so many different colors. I think we will do a dark brown. And I think I'm probably going to go with the darkest brown using watercolor, but we'll outline where I want the brown to be. We'll put some lines to show where the boots usually bend at the heel. These are very form-fitting boots, by the way. Okay. If there's one thing that's more difficult to draw than hands or faces, it's feet. Let me tell you. I'll tell you what. Okay. And then finally, let's go with a sort of light gray shirt. So this should look pretty similar to the pencil drawing I've already done. There we go, the material is bending around his elbow. There we go. Now it's just gonna go right and meet up with the blue vest. So since the blue vest is already penned in, I'm just gonna let that part go. We are gonna draw some lines here where the material is being tugged by the elbow away from the shoulder. There you go. And now for the right arm, just behind, very much simpler. It's hidden by the rest of the piece. Okay, losing you again. Hi, Tomo. Thank you for joining. And because I have the gray already and I don't want to put too much thought into this, we're just going to do gray for the pants as well. And they'll be very tight, form-fitting pants. Okay. And we'll draw the seams so we can see where the side of the legs are. Sometimes it's really a little bit harder to see how like how clothing really works if you don't have the right reference lines to indicate what your figure looks like. Okay, so those elements are done. Let's see what they look like with the graphite removed. If I missed any lines for the clothing. Okay. Hey, that's pretty workable. I did miss where the pants meet up with the chair. I'm going to do that. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now for the head and the hands, the actual parts of our king that are showing. Dumb internet. I bet you know this more than anybody, Terry, about how internet live streaming can be so frustrating. Okay, so I think I'm going to use, let's see, the same color I used for the paper to draw out the outline of the chair. And by the way, designing a royal chair is also kind of difficult because it has to be kind of in theme. It can't just be four legs and a back and a seat. You want it to have a feel that tells a story, right? But you don't want it to have too many details, so many details that it distracts. So I think we're just going to draw this panel here to indicate that indicate that it has a corner on the feet, and that's that. We'll just leave it at that. Ho hum. Okay. I decided I wanted to draw a kind of high-backed chair so that we could drape the cloak on it and kind of elegantly drape onto the floor. Okay. And then for this part, I think we'll do a green. Do a dark green. And this ultimately will get to kind of really practice what we will be drawing on the crown. Because this has elements. This has that cedar tree element added to it. Okay. my goodness. Okay, so for this, so what I have drawn here is I've drawn a cloak that has some fur on the top, and then just cloth on the bottom. Not a whole lot of research went into making this cloak look realistic, like it was sitting on the floor. I ultimately just drew this top part and then drew some lines towards the bottom. So I don't really know how. It's one of those things I decided was ultimately not super important to the piece, that this piece of drapery look perfect. I am going to do some light hair here around the fur part, so that when I erase it, you won't really be able to see it, but it should have a good effect. And then I think ultimately let's do a green cloak. Okay. And we'll have it kind of be a brighter green. And ultimately I'm not gonna do all these lines. I'm gonna let the watercolor show those lines. I'm just doing the outline of the cloak sitting on the floor. Okay, now that's done, let's erase and see how this chair and this cloak came out. Whew. Did I miss anything? Hopefully I did not. Okay. Whew. Oh, I forgot this arm right here. Let's go back. Draw that. There we go. Okay, all the elements of this, and then we have to go and actually draw the hands and the hair. I think for hair, we'll just draw. I'm going to draw the hands and then some tufts of hair using the pen, kind of like he's running his fingers through his hair through aggravation. What color do I want his skin to be? You know, we'll go with a very light color, and then I'll add shadows from the Candlelit onto his hands. There's not a lot of detail in his hands, so that should work out pretty well. Okay. What color should his hair be? His hair, let's make his hair black, like onyx. And I had to, my bullet pen black got ruined, the end split, so I'm using a different type of pen. This will run when water is put on it, but I think I'm not going to be really putting a whole bunch of water on or near where the hair is, so we can use this for black here. Okay. And just do some waves. Some tufts coming out from in between his fingers. He is very frustrated with how life is going right now. He just needs a break, but he's not taking a break. Okay. I might add some more later. I think that right now is good. Let's outline the rest of his face, which is not very much. I decided just to do an ear, which from this angle, very easy. It's just kind of an oval shape. And then the side of his cheek and his jaw. Okay. Whew. I was planning to do this part last night, to be honest. So, because this is going to take up some time before we actually get to the watercolor. But you know what happened last night? I got tired. I got tired and I didn't want to do it. So I decided not to. I decided to kind of just hermit and watch TV. C'est la vie, right? Okay. Now let's get to the candles. For the candles, this is actually going to be part of the, even though it's a small element of this piece, it is a very important piece. It is where the vanishing point goes to, and it's drawing up the rest of the piece. And also, it is the source of light that is going to be cast onto the background. So it's very important how this little section here is going to kind of inform you how the rest of the section goes. And so I want that to look as clean and accurate as possible. In that note, on that note, so when I go to draw the candle lights, they will be very light. Ultimately, when I do the watercolor, I will not actually be doing much at all. I'll probably just put like a darker shade of brown yellow here, and then pick up as much as possible with like a paper towel, and then and do that for a couple layers so you get that kind of glowing feeling, but not actually defining where it is. Otherwise you kind of get a cartoonish looking candle. It still may end up looking cartoonish. I'm not saying it won't, but it will, we can allude to the fact that there is flame here without much definition using a light color. And there are 7 candles here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I thought that would be nice. Like have a 6 in a circle and then 1 in the middle. Okay. Whew. If these are white candles, if these are white candles, then their shadows would probably be more of a gray or a yellow. So I'm also going to kind of outline the bottom, but not the tops. So when I erase, there is not going to be a top to the candlestick itself. Okay. And now for the actual candelabra part, the candlestick itself. Let's see, we want it to be gold. Gold's kind of shiny, but there are going to be a lot of shadows cast around it. So I think I can go with a little bit of a brighter, more defined yellow to set as the base for this candlestick. And then when I go in with my watercolor, it will, I'll be able to build up this candlestick using shadows instead. Of just coloring in the candlestick. Okay, there we go. Needed eraser, picking up all the graphite. Okay, All right, so you can't really see it. It's still there, but it's not as prominent as it was before. Okay. All right, we're almost done with the background. Final pen assistance will be for the inkwell and the table and the parchment that is in front of him. Okay. Let's see, how do we want to do this? Let's do the inkwell first, because that's going to be easy. It's just going to be pretty much black. There are different types of inkwells. I like to just go with the simplest, most basic looking of jars and call it a project. We're just going to color that in as much as possible. And now for the feather. I think the feather we will make with gray. There you go. His quill, as it were. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. How's everybody's week going so far? What all is happening in the world with you guys? I am curious. I want to know. This parchment doesn't really have an end. It just kind of disappears underneath our figure here. I'm okay with that. Okay, for the table. For the table. Go with the light brown. Light brown? Let's go with the gray. You know what? These are very straight lines. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a ruler to draw the straight lines. Stay right there. So I do feel like I need to kind of make this point really clear. When you go to draw and you sketch on a piece of paper and you use a ruler to sketch the lines, absolutely, without question, use the ruler to put in the final lines. If you didn't trust your hand before to draw a pencil sketch without the ruler, you can't trust your hand to draw a straight line with the ink. So always, 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 if you're going to use a ruler to draw long straight lines that have to be precise, use the ruler again with the final tools that you were using. In this case, I'm using a pen. So please, 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 please do that. That's right. Point made. Now we're going to actually follow through with that. Okay. Whew. Whew, whew, whew. lines up. Go. Ta-da! All right, there we go. Accidentally drew an extra line from where I previously drew the table, so I might just add a little extra since I've already accidentally did that. We'll add another line. All right, there we go. Ta-da! Oh boy. Whew. I'm getting warm. I'm getting warm. Hi, Ellie. Nothing exciting is happening, guys. Okay. All right. So the background's all figured out. Now, do I feel comfortable enough to go in with the crown? I think I do. I genuinely think I do. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the light color pen, and we're going to outline the crown, like the golden parts of the crown and the essentially the engraving parts on the tree right here. And then I'm going to take the green and outline the emerald, some of the emerald, not all of it, and then take the black and go in. You know what? I think I'm going to wait on the black, actually. We're going to wait on the black because this black does end up running, and we are definitely going to be getting this page wet, and I don't want any of it to accidentally bleed out into the gold part. So we're going to leave the black out, the onyx stones out of the crown until the very last moment. Okay. Getting some of the graphite, I don't know if you can see it. I'm getting some of the graphite on the tip there, so this this light color might not come out as light as I originally thought. Hopefully it's not permanent and that the graphite will still pick up off on the paper really easily. And hopefully I don't die in the process. This is very time consuming, by the way. Totally worth it. It is totally worth it, though. If you're going to make a piece that you want to be proud of and that you're excited for, take the time to do it right. If you can't do it right in a short amount of time, take breaks and take as much time as you need to get the pieces right. I've probably put about, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours into this piece before I started. And it is, what time is it now? Oh, it's been like an hour already into this art hour. So about 9 hours has gone into this piece. And I'm not a professional doing this. This is just me trying to hone my skill and practice getting better at this. Hopefully, if I do this enough, I will be able to do this really quickly and effectively, and make my visions a reality when it comes to executing a piece that I'm imagining. Not executing, or carrying out a piece that I'm imagining. Executing sounds pretty bad. Execute a plan, but you want to create life and want to breathe life into your piece. Okay, so let's see how that's turning out. Hopefully not too much of it got the graphite got stuck to the pen. I hope not. Okay, there we go. That looks pretty good, I think. Yeah, that is totally doable. That's totally doable. Okay, let's continue on adding more details. Oh. Dun, 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 dun. Da, 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 da. Dun, 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 dun. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Oh, these circles okay, yeah, these circles should be big. These circles should be small. Whew, I was worried for a second, like, oh my god, are these supposed to be the same size? My brain just tried to sabotage me. I did it wrong. It's gonna look terrible. Why'd you even try this? Blah blah blah. All those thoughts. All those thoughts that you don't need. I don't need when I'm creating a piece. Okay. you'll hear the dogs in the background. Kind of walking along, tippy tap, getting some water. Okay. Okay, the goal part is outlined. Okay. Now for the rest of it. Oh, hello. Hello, little dogs. Hello. How's it going? How are you doing? How are you doing? Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm going to take a quick pause for a second and take the dogs out. Also, kind of take a little breather. It's a little warm. Still getting a little warm out here. I'm a Washingtonian, so 60 degrees feels a little bit too much for me. Oh, looking good. Love this whole concept and crowns. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kathy. That's such a nice thing to say. Yes, so the pieces, I'm going to show you the pieces for a second, but I'm going to be outside for like 2 minutes. So if you need a bathroom break, now is the time to take a bathroom break. All right, guys, come on. Let's go potty. Angel, let's go potty. Hey, guys, let's go. Let's go. Right. Anyway, thank you for your patience. I also feel like I should just take this time to say that these are some of the cutest dogs that ever existed. They are pretty darn cute. So I'm sorry if you own a dog, but that is also adorable. But these two are the cutest, hands down. Ta-ta. Not going to show you them though, because they are not my dogs, and they are okay not being in the limelight. Yes. Okay. All right. This crown. We're almost done inking the lines for this crown. So, how are we going to go about doing this? Let us do like what we did for the sapphire, this one sapphire. We're going to do similarly what we did for the vest. We're going to use a light blue, and then when we go in with the watercolor, we can use a darker blue to really make that shine, make it look that vibrant royal blue. Now with reflective surfaces, it is a little different, a little difficult. Deciding where you should draw the lines, because sometimes the surface that you are drawing actually would be a very, very reflective surface that a lot of light would bounce off of, and there would be no lines to draw. And so by drawing lines, you kind of take away that vibrant, reflective feel. But since I want this to be as structured as possible, I'm just going to ink in the lines, and then when I go in to do the reflective part of the surface of these different surfaces, I'll just say they're contained within the actual panels of each jewel themselves. All right, come here, green. Okay. Now this is going to be the trickier part, because these are very small details. Very tiny, tiny details, and that's why we're using the ink pens. So we can still maintain that clear, pristine look before adding watercolor. I guess at this point, ink pens are genuinely just watercolor in very defined form, right? Maybe the actual composition of what makes the ink and what makes the watercolor is very different, but overall, a very similar idea. Bum, 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 bum. Dun, 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 dun. No, don't beg. Because I sit at the table, one of the dogs believes that I have food. And while there are chips on this table in case I get a little need for a snacky snack, there's not really any food on this table. Okay. So I think I've inked in everything that I want to ink in here. I think. So now I'm going to erase what I can. And then, oh, shoot. I lied. I completely lied. I need to ink in the pillow. You know, I haven't decided what color pillow I'm going to use. Literally have no idea. How's my connection doing, by the way? Okay. What color pillow do I want for this? Since we have a kind of blue, green, brown, yellow going on, I think we will do, let's see, in black. Let's go with oh, let's go with a black, no, we don't want black. Let's go with a dark green, like at the back of the chair, that kind of dark green. Okay, ta-da! All right, let's erase all this. Everything must be erased. Nothing shall stay. Ah! Is my connection doing okay? Oops, forgot to do some lines here. Okay. pencil. Just dang. No matter where I look, there's always some sort of graphite. Okay. Okay. That's it. I think I'm done with the erasing. The erasing is done. I'm done. Ugh. There's only so much this girl can do here. Now to get on to the watercoloring. Ah! Watercoloring. Right. Show you like in what the details look like right now. That's what I have so far. Still see some graphite and that bothers me, but it is what it is. And hopefully the watercolor will cover it up. There we go. That's what we got. Let's make it happen. I'm going to bring out my handy dandy watercolor pens. And we are going to start with a light brown wash. So in order to do that, we're going to put some brown onto here. I'm going to take let's see, this brush here, I think will do the trick. And put some water on here. Kind of get it going like that. Yeah, I like it. Okay. Now let's start to get that soft look for the background in order to kind of make it fade and not have as much detail. We're going to wet the paper. Bless you. And then put color on, put pigment onto it. And we're going to bring, oh my goodness, so many supplies. Bring this over here, like that. Okay. There we go. Right. No, Angel. No. Go lie down. Angel, go lie down. She wants food. Sorry, Angel. I don't got the food for you. I agree, Ellie. I agree. Okay. How's this looking? Okay. Here we go. Okay. So right now it has a kind of light, airy feel to it. And that's great. I'm not saying that that's wrong. But now it's time to start layering and add more brown colors that will give it that oppressive, dark, late at night feel that we all know and understand if you've ever been to college and it's the night before a big test and you go, So we're gonna layer in some darker brown in the background. I hope that it works out. Oh. Well, it was good, but just now in and out. How about purpose? Oh, I've just got your stuff. Purple, it's a royal color. I meant purple. Purple's pretty good. You know what? Maybe I should do purple. Purple's a pretty royal color. Maybe when I go in, because this is a pretty dark green, I'll go in and put some purple at it, and this will just be like the seams, the outlines. Okay. Oof. Layer, layer, layer. Layer, layer, layer. Layer, layer, layer. Layer, 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 layer. Okay, here we go. Indicating that there is some sort of support actually happening for this table. Oh, bless you. Yeah, the connection starts and stops now. Sorry about that. It's just going to be one of those days. Sorry about that. Okay, we're almost done with this like brown background that will provide shading for the feel of a candlelit room. Oof, so intimidating doing these outlines of the points of the crown. Probably not every crown is perfect, right? Anyway. Okay. Okay. Now for these scrolls. Let's do these scrolls. Oh. Hmm. So some of the details seem to be staying, but they do look like the water looks like it is kind of washing out some of the finer details of the brush pen. So I might have to go back once this is all dry and redo some of the work that I did. Okay. Go. Oof, so tired. Okay, now to do this parchment. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Looks like some of this is faded a little bit. So we're gonna go in with some darker pigment. Maybe just actually put the pen on. Darken this all up. I actually just directly put the pen on so that you get that solid feeling. Okay. Can you see that? Okay, good. Hey,
Hello.
how's it going?
Have the dog's eaten?
Yes,
And Kathy said she's losing you.
I know.
So were you just gonna carry on?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, because what I think what happens is that this it records me fine, and so then when I upload it later, the connection problems that happen during do not show up when I post it.
Oh, okay.
I hope. Anyway.
You guys want wet something? Angel, you want wet something?
Okay, there we go. So by putting that in, we both allude to the fact that there is actual support for the table without actually having to detail it, but also provides a nice contrast for the crown that I will be painting shortly. So we're gonna let that dry a little bit. Yeah, I'll let that dry, and move on to another element of the paper of the piece. What do I want to do? What do I want to do? How about we work on the cape? Let's work on the cape and kind of get a feel for how the light and dark will work. Losing you, Audrey. Rats. I'll go off and come back. Maybe that would help. I hope so, but it's most likely that there's something wrong with my upload connection, and so hopefully, even though the upload connection isn't all that great, it will when I upload this later, it'll be fine. Okay. So now we're gonna work on green. Green, green, green. It looks like the bullet journal ink does run. And that's fine. That's why we chose the colors that we did. Let's just kind of spread the green, shall we? Okay, excellent. Hi guys. Did you have a good time outside? Have a good time outside. Huh. There we go. I think I like that a lot. That looks pretty good. A very soft looking cloak. Not too much detail. Looking pretty good. Let's see. Now maybe we want to go on, now that we have the green here, go on to the emerald of the crown. So in order to do that, I'm going to use a smaller brush. I'm going to use this brush, I think. So I'm imagining the light's coming in from over my shoulder. That looks a little too dark. Pick that up with a dry brush. There we go. Okay. Normally at this point I'd be doing a little some close-ups so you can see what I was working on. It's a little bit difficult to do with my setup right now, so I do apologize for that. But pretty much what I'm doing is I'm taking some pigment, I'm putting it on the very tip of my brush, just a little bit. I'm swiping it on one of the panels of the emerald that is showing, and then I'm going and I'm drying my brush so that it has little to no pigment on it, and then I am picking up pigment on one side. So hopefully when it dries, it'll have a nice gradient where one part is very dark and one part where I was picking up the extra pigment is light, and it'll have that kind of nice gradient effect that makes jewels so beautiful. Okay. Okay. You stay. You can stay. It's fine. All right, you're on. Excellent. Oof. Oof. I say. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lighten up the screen that I have. With water, and I'm going to do the centerpieces of each of these and see how I feel about them. And what I might do at the end here is go in with some white paint and put highlights on. But for the meantime, we're just going to try and get that nice gradient green. Vibrant, vibrant, vibrant. Okay. Tiny details. Tiny, tiny details. Why did I do this? I hope it works out. Something to note that when I was sketching out the jewels here, I wanted there to be some realistic perspective, but in order for me to do that, it took a lot of trial and error. Because there's a way to do it that would make it perfectly symmetrical and everything, but ultimately, I don't have the time, the patience, or the skills to really pull that off. To be honest, just flat out being honest with you, I don't have those kinds of resources available to me in my own personal capacity and just my life in general to be able to pull it off. So I pretty much just guesstimated what I wanted. I made the details small, nothing too ornate, and then I kind of eyeballed it to see if anything really stood out. So when I look back at this, probably in like a week or so, I'm gonna be like, yeah, that jewel looks a little off. It doesn't look like it has the right perspective or anything, but it's going to be close enough that I won't feel like I didn't give it my best shot. That it is ultimately not noticeable to the people that are looking at my piece of art. And that's ultimately what you want, is you want it to be good enough that people can appreciate it, but not so time consuming that they will not appreciate the amount of work that you put into making it work. Okay. Oh my goodness. Just cracked my back a little bit. Thank you, thank you. I've been on for 2 hours. Yeah. I kind of knew going into this was going to be a while, right? 'Cause that's just how this happens. 'Cause I chose to make this a detail-oriented piece. This is going to be my last watercolor piece for a while at least. So I wanted it to look good, and I wanted to take the time to actually show what watercolor can do. Even if I am not the best watercolor artist, I want to show that it is possible to make it work if you have enough practice and enough time to make it happen. So there are other panels on each of these that I will need to paint, but I'm going to let what is in there dry for right now, so that when I go in, it doesn't muddle up the clear lines that I already have set out for the jewels. So I'm going to let the green, the emeralds dry, and I'm going to work on the sapphire. Let's work on that sapphire. Take the blue. I'm going to do my figure 8 in my water to get the brush completely void of pigment. There's no pigment on here. And start on the biggest jewel here. So let's start with a small panel and see how the blue comes out. I'm going to start with this tiny one here on the upper left corner. I'm going to add some blue. Okay, that's all right. Not as dark as I would like, so maybe since the pigment that I have is not super dark in value, I might have to layer this a couple times to get that dark, vibrant blue that I want. Okay. And since this piece has more sides, I decided to put a little bit more complexity into it. This gives me the opportunity to paint more panels and get it more complete, generally speaking. Okay. 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 Now this is gonna look a little bit wonky. Some of the water kind of bled through the lines that I originally made. So I might have to compensate afterwards to make it look more clean cut. Hopefully it won't be too much work. There we go. Yeah. I dig it. I dig it. Hot diggity. Okay. Going to let that sit for a minute because this is wet. So any panel I touch, any panels I have not painted yet are going to be touching a wet panel on the jewel, and I don't want to do that yet. So we're going to let that sit for a little bit, and continue on to the blue for the vest and collar of our king, our very distraught king. Let's start with the collar. See how the collar goes. And since we know that the bullet journal ink kind of bleeds, we can kind of hopefully make that work to our advantage here. So I'm thinking that is a nice blue, but we want the blue for the sapphire to be more vibrant than the blue for the vest. So I'm going to take some black and add it to my palette, and then in another section of my palette, make a darker blue. And no, go lie down. Thank you. Okay. How about, yeah, like that. Okay, I think I like that. We'll just go in and paint the rest of this front panel here. Do what we can to still keep the details. Oh, the shirt. There you go. Let's see. It seems a little bit overdone because they're still white, but I think I'll wait for this to dry and I'll go back with some of that pure blue instead of that mixed blue and cover it, and then we'll still have that look without that stark contrast. Okay. Doo-doo. Okay, all right, so we're gonna leave the vest as is. And now that the blue from the sapphire over here is ready to go, clean the brush and go back straight into that pure blue that we were working with earlier. So now we're gonna let's work on the main panel. Ultimately, because that's the most exciting one, is going to be the most shimmery and shiniest. If I can make this one work, the rest of it will kind of pull together, I think. Okay, so I'm putting water onto it. Now I'm putting, so that front panel, the biggest side of the jewel is wet, and I'm putting blue pigment onto my brush. Just kind of ease it into corners there. Okay, so now I think I like that. I'm going to clean off my brush. So it's only has the barest amount of water, not even really, and then I'm going to just kind of go in and blend it out. Like that. Okay, I like it. So we're going to go in with some more pigment and go around these edges and make them really clean cut looking. Here we go. Da 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 da. Okay. I like it. I like it a lot. Mwah! So happy. Okay, so now we're gonna let that dry. Let that dry as is, that perfect gradient that I'm really happy with. We're gonna not touch it. Let it be. 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 Alright, this is dry over here. I'm gonna wet it. Then we're gonna go in with that bluish, slightly blackened pigment, and add some darker colors to it, so it's not such a stark contrast. Soften those lines, as it were. Okay. Oh, my phone is dying. Plug it in. Forgot to plug it in. All right. One second, folks. Dun, dun. Okay. What a world. Okay, my phone is plugged in, but it can't see the thing. Let's see how I can make this happen. So you can see there's the plug-in, and as close as it's going to be to my thing. Okay, let's try and do this a different way. Thank you for your patience as I figure this out. I really don't want my phone to die in the middle of all this. There we go. Okay. So it's a little bit closer now, but we should be able to, that will probably work, right? We'll be able to actually see some of the details that I'm working on. Okay. Whew. And hopefully the stand will stay steady and not fall on top of my painting. Ugh. Let's work on the pants. Let's work on his pants and his shirt. No. Okay. Pants. I have outlined it with gray, but I'm thinking we should probably go with like a gray brown. I'm kind of feeling a gray brown. Or a dark brown? Nah, just a grayish brownish color. So I'm adding black and brown to my palette. We're going to mix it until we get to a nice dark brown, like dyed leather. Dyed leather. Okay. Now, how are we going to go about doing this and still be able to show some of the detail? Let's wet this back leg and see how it goes. Because at this point we can still see some candlelight on this leg. So it will be lit up. They'll need to be light and dark to show shadows and highlights. So what I'm doing is I just dried off, I put pigment down, dried off my brush. Now my brush is going to go by and pick up some of the excess pigment, and it will gently show